In this very spookerific review, we're going to be continuing our looks at the Playmates toys, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as we have a look at Vampire Raph. Just before we have a look at Vampire Raph, let's get some dimensions going. Vampire Raph is close to about 5 inches tall. He's about 4 3/4 of an inch. He comes with some really interesting looking accessories, one of which being a vampire bat, which coincidentally enough also has a little turtle head. One can make the assumption that this is maybe transformed Vampire Raph into bat form, but one thing that's neat about it is that based on the way that the legs are configured, you can clamp it very easily onto his arm, just like that. There's really no other place where you can keep the bat. Of course, you can also clamp it to the opposite arm as well. But I like that you can clamp these into place. The bat, by the way, doesn't really have much in the way of paint, but I think makes up for it in a really cool looking sculpt. Moving along, he also gets himself a stake. One of the things that you would think a Vampire Raph would want to stay clear of, but he has a stake that you can use as a weapon. They've given it a mild wood grain to it to give it the indication that it's real wood, and I think a fairly successful outing. I had mentioned in the vampire or the monster hunting Raph that he didn't come with any sai. In this case, he does come with a sai of his pair of sai that he tends to already carry. So you could also have a vampire hunting Raph carrying this sai, and even really you could have him carrying the stake as well, up above and beyond the crossbow that we've looked at. Speaking of which, there he is next to Vampire Hunting or Monster Hunting Raph. About the same height. This one's just a little bit taller. You know, one thing that interests me though is I'm surprised that they went with, I'm just going to move Vampire Raph over, Monster Hunter Raph over, and Monster Hunter Leo. I'm surprised. You know what they almost should have done? I'm just going to kind of space these figures out. Because all the Turtle brothers are being represented by Universal Monsters, they could have either taken, well, they could have taken these two characters and used different characters, I think, as Monster Hunters. I'm now looking at Raph. I love the way Raph looks as a vampire, but this could have also been a Monster Hunter Splinter. Just taking like Splinter's, can you imagine how awesome that would look as Splinter? Of course, he'd have a lot of browns because he's already a brown furred character, and they've got the brown jacket. But that would have been really looking good as a very aged Splinter too. And then maybe what you could have done for Monster Hunter Leo is this could have been like Monster Hunter April O'Neil or Monster Hunter Casey Jones as a couple of different options as well. Of course, I love the fact that the turtles are dressed like Monster Hunters. But because the turtles are already kind of represented here as Universal Monsters, it'd be kind of cool that these would have been used as different characters. We'll just move those off camera. Grab. Oh, and also, by the way, it's not quite the same coloring, but again, you could make use of the sai and the stake for Monster Hunter Raph, which is something I mentioned in a previous video. Alright, so let's have a look at Vampire Raph. He really looks fun, and I think of all the Turtle brothers, it made the most sense making Raph the vampire because his predominant go-to color anyways is red. It pairs perfectly then with the cape, which is also red, and of course all the little accents that are generally like black and red when you think vampire. As one thing to go to and one thing to talk about is the cape. The cape is a felt cape, which, you know, nowadays it's kind of like talking to, when you call for customer service and you talk to automated computers all the time, as that was the faster means to have better customer service. Now so many people favor talking to real people. I kind of feel like the same way with capes. So long we've gone with plastic capes. It's such a nice treat, I have to admit, by getting a felt cape. I wish more and more toy companies would go the route of felt or cloth capes rather than always the very rigid non-posable plastic capes that seem to be such the go-to for a very long time. So I really like the fact that Raph here has a cloth cape. The cape itself is technically, I don't think you could probably remove his head to, of course, get the chain around the collar off of his head socket. And then you would just simply take these off because they're just elastics. Just slide them off his arms. While we're actually on the topic of arms, I think they might have reused these arms for one of the, I think it's Michelangelo is the mummy. It looks like these are mummy wraps, simply just have not been painted, and they used it for Raph here. Face sculpt is really good. You've got some vampire teeth. I really like his hairstyle as well. Very cool, and especially like the long ears that they've given him as well. The outfit, they've given him kind of a tuxedo. And if we just move the chain out of the way, you can see that they've also painted in the bow. But unfortunately, the bow, you could say that the bow is striped, but it looks like they put the stripes of the shirt over top of the print of the bow, which is a bit of a shame. Got a little red, looks like a red flower, a little red, I don't know, it almost looks like a poppy, a little red flower on his lapel. And he's got his little knee pads. Still looks like a Ninja Turtle. A Ninja Turtle, though, as a vampire. Let's go through his posability. Head is on a full rotation. It's actually a ball joint, and there you can see his bandana. The knot of the bandana, I should say. So it hinges up and down. Not really a lot, though, just by the way it pegs itself into the torso area. Universal joints on the arms, so the arms can hinge outward. Normally, I would say you can rotate it all the way around, but you could probably see what would happen if you start rotating it too much. The cape would wrap itself around and probably break. So you can rotate the arms, but I wouldn't say to the amount that you would want to rotate it a full rotation. Just kind of just keeping it up and down, so to speak. Got the hinge in the forearm. You can also rotate the hand. And you can also, rotate the forearm, you can also rotate the hand. It looks like he's got not quite a waist swivel, but he still has the same leg articulation. As you could probably guess, though, because the leg articulation is further up, the front denser plastic of his torso kind of limits moving the leg forward and back too much, or really, for that matter, out. He's got finally the bend in the knee, and he's got the rotation also in his lower feet. I just love these Monsters and Mutants turtles. It brings me back to my childhood when Playmates toys used to kind of branch out and from time to time give us different versions of the Turtle Brothers, sometimes dressed as Starfleet captains and crew from the Star Trek universe. Sometimes we've got monsters, and I really love the fact that they take chances from time to time and give us something unique, a different take on the turtle property. Monsters right up my alley, and I think overall, I think Vampire Raph turned out quite good. The only thing I would say is looking once again at Vampire Raph and knowing that all the turtles are representing major monster characters, the monster hunters could have then easily been the likes of a Splinter, a Casey Jones, or April O'Neil. By not making those different characters, I feel like Playmates should have maybe gone the route of doing that so that you could have had all the four brothers representing the monsters, and then you could have had other characters representing the monster hunters. I still love the look of those figures, but I just feel like those could have been maybe a Monster Hunter Splinter or some of the other characters that I mentioned before. From just Vampire Raph, love the colors. I love the fact that he's got the little bat that can go onto his hand. And even though it's not a weapon that he would want to come too close to, I like that at least he comes with a stake and he comes with a sai that you could use either for Vampire Raph, or you could also use it for the Hunter, the Monster Hunter Raph that we looked at in a previous video. At any rate, today we were looking once again at the Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was the Monsters and Mutants line, and today we were looking at the very dark Master of the Undead. We're looking at Vampire Raph. Stay tuned, guys. There's more videos coming your way during the month of Spottober as we look at other spooky, terrifying toy lines, all coming from the dark depths of, well, the stores and my collection. If you guys haven't had a chance yet to subscribe to this channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that little subscribe button down below. You won't miss a beat when it comes to future videos, and the undead will not come to your door. It's not 100% promise, but I'm 45% sure that the undead won't come to your door if you subscribe to this channel. As always, guys, thanks for watching, as you always do. I'll see you next time.